You know, I finally worked out that movie, Tenet. You know, that movie where things work in reverse. There's a forward timeline and a reverse timeline. That is actually a depiction of our lives. Because you go forward and you go forward and you start getting all the latest technology until you reach a point where you realize that maybe the old stuff was just as good or even better. So you start going backwards on your own timeline and you start buying old DSLRs, 5D Mark IIs and 7D classics and 6D classics, and you start getting old lenses, old L lenses and old vintage lenses, M42s. You start going back on your own timeline and you start buying SLRs and film cameras and start going through film stock and stuff, and you keep going back until you meet up with yourself who started you on the journey back in the day with a Zenit EM. Here we have a box. Let's open the box and find out what is in it. And of course it is MPB. I always call it MBP. For some reason that rings off my tongue a lot better. MPB. So we're gonna waste no time, scalpel it open, see what we got. You know it's something old, right? Because we're on that Tenet flex. So let's do this. I actually hate watching unboxings, so I'm gonna probably speed this up. Looks like a lens. Looks like a lens. There you go. Let's open this up and see what it is. Gotta do it properly. You've got to fling the paper over your shoulder like you don't care. Oh, the trypophobic wrapping. For those of you that... Warning! I should put a warning across the screen, shouldn't I? Ying! Ying! It is... Let's take this off. Can you see this? A 24 to 105. Oh, how boring. He's got a 24 to 105. Shouldn't that have been the first lens you bought? Maybe, but I didn't. So, in true Tenet style, I'm going backwards on my own timeline to get something which I should have had. Got a mark on the front element there. Yeah, don't know if you can see that. I'm gonna have to see if you probably can't see it in the image, but there's a mark on that front element. It's not new, it's used, so you have to take everything with a pinch of salt when you do this used thing. Looks quite clear. But yeah, I never had a 24 to 105, and I have a 24 to 70, which is here. And I've been using, I love this lens, this 24 to 70 f4. I love this lens, and this is like my Swiss Army knife of lenses, and it gets me out of a lot of situations. It's quite small, it's quite light, it's very sharp, and yeah, when I originally bought this lens, I considered the 24 to 105, but I always thought, I weren't sure whether to go for the 24-105 or this one, and I opted for this one because it was newer, it was sharper, it was smaller. If you can see that, it's slightly smaller, slightly. Let's put the rear cap on so you can see the proper length. It's slightly smaller, and I like small lenses. Yeah, the reviews on this one was always, because it was older, that it weren't sharp all the way through. But that extra from 70 to 105, I find if I'm doing filming, if I'm filming with my XFs, my big shoulder mount cameras, yeah, DV cams. Sometimes I like to, have a camera over my shoulder, so that I can, you know, pop some shots at an event. And I generally use the M50 for that because it's nice and small and you can just put the M50 over your shoulder and use with M lenses. But the M50, the quality is good, but when it comes to low light, you want to use this. I want to use this, my 6D, yeah, because the 6D is the lightest of my DSLRs that are good in the dark. So I really want to put this on it, yeah. But it's with 24-70, the reach isn't that. It's always just falls short. It's just short with a 24-70. So I can, when I'm filming, I've got the camera on a tripod maybe, and I want to squeeze off some shots at the event. I'm finding that the 24-70 is just a bit too short. So now I had to reason with myself, because you know you have to reason with yourself when you want to go and buy a new lens or a new camera or whatever. You got to convince yourself. So I thought, you know what, let me just bite the bullet, go for the 105, sorry. And I think that should be perfect. So hence here we have the latest addition to the multiple media manager, the life and times. All that smooth, man. I am concerned that it might not be as sharp, but to be honest, sharpness isn't everything, you know. And that looks okay. But if it doesn't look okay, I'm going to send it back and get another one, because there is a mark on the front element that I did not see in the picture. So I'm going to take it out and test it and see how it goes. Yeah. Image stabilization. This is said to be probably the best kit lens that there is that you can get. So I want to take this out and test it and see. But it should be good. Should be great. Obviously, there's differences between these two. And for those of you that might be wanting to go for one and not knowing which one to go for, it's kind of hard to decide what one to go for. As you can see, I went for 24-70 and ended up having to go back and get the 24-105. I've shown you the size. Let me show you the size when they're fully extended, so you can see the difference. Okay, fully extended. I'm trying to hold them at the same level. There you go. Focus on the lens. There you go. So it is a little bit bigger. I can't really feel the difference in weight. I'm sure this one's heavier, but 24-105 obviously being bigger should be heavier, but I can't really feel the difference. It feels, maybe if I really close my eyes I can slightly feel, or maybe it's because I know this one. You probably won't feel the difference. They're both image stabilized. They got image stabilization. Yeah, little switch here where you can do image stabilization, which means it's good. They're both good for video. But the 24-70 has a little macro feature, you know, so you can get them nice, tight, close shots. You see that close shot where I'm showing you the scratch on here? I swapped out the 16-35 and put this on 24-70. It's got a little macro feature, little macro button around here. Yeah. Can you see that? Little macro button. Yeah, don't focus on my finger. And you flip that. When you go around to 70, you flip this button, and then it opens up a little macro section around here, so you can get some real nice macro shots. And that is another reason why I went for this, because I thought that would come in handy. I haven't really used it. Well, once or twice. But I find that I don't really use that function. It's good to have on here. It's a nice little function to have on here, because you might come into a situation where you might need a macro and you haven't got a macro lens, but you got this on. So it does come in handy, but I think for the kind of shooting I do, this one will come more in handy. So we'll see. I'm in a phase of trial and error, so we're gonna see how we do with the 24-105. I did some first test shots around the house with the 24-105 with my granddaughter, who just happened to be around the house, it being the 6 weeks holidays. So we went out into the gardens and we decided to photograph some passion flowers and some bees and, you know, just the general colors and vibrancy of the space that we were in. And I was quite surprised. It was quite sharp and it handled it very well. Just to counterbalance that, I slapped on the 24-70 that has the macro function, and obviously it's not a fair comparison because we're shooting more macro in this space. So the 24-70 absolutely smashed it. But the way I want to use the 24-105, it's more in an event space. So I'm going to have to try that and see what that looks like. But I was impressed. Will I be selling my 24-70? Don't really need it anymore. We'll see. I don't like the idea of selling it because this was my first L lens, you know, and you become attached. I've become attached to it. So I don't really like the idea of selling it. So the 24-70 will probably be a studio lens when I do portrait sessions, which is not that often. I don't do them that often, but I do them once in a while. But as a studio lens, when you don't want to keep changing lenses because, you know, your subject's not far away from you, you're in a controlled environment, this sings. Trust me. This is the one lens solution for everything in a studio environment. So I'll probably keep it for that. And if I don't use it too tough, then I'll probably think about selling it and get something else. Trying to say it quiet so it doesn't hear what I'm talking about. So yeah, it's all about the 24-105. I'm gonna take it out on a test run, and maybe next time when you see me, I'll show you. I'll share the results with you. Zoom.